Okay, so let's set the scene. It's March 1865, and the Civil War is just about over. But right here in North Carolina, one of the last great, desperate battles is about to explode. We're talking about the Battle of Bentonville, the largest and bloodiest fight the state would ever see, and really, the last major offensive for a Confederate army. This was it, their last stand.
And just look at these numbers. They tell you everything you need to know about how desperate this was. On one side, you have Union General William T. Sherman with 60,000 battle-hardened soldiers, and facing him, a Confederate force of just 20,000, scraped together from all over. The odds were absolutely staggering. This wasn't a fair fight. It was a Hail Mary, a final, desperate gamble.
So, here's the deal. Confederate General Joseph E. Johnston was handed a mission that was, let's be honest, pretty much impossible. He had to find a way to stop Sherman's massive army from marching north to meet up with General Grant and finish the war for good.
You've got to remember where we are in the war. Sherman has already torn through Georgia on his famous march to the sea. Now he's just rolling north through the Carolinas like a juggernaut. For the Union, the end is so close they can taste it.
The goals here couldn't have been more different. For Sherman, it was pretty simple. Just get his army to Goldsboro, get new supplies, and then link up with Grant to deliver the final blow. But for Johnston, his plan was pure desperation. He had to hit a small piece of Sherman's army, hope for a miracle, and maybe, just maybe, throw a wrench in the Union's whole plan.
Wow, this quote right here really says it all, doesn't it? Johnston's army of 20,000 wasn't some elite fighting force. It was a total patchwork. You had exhausted veterans, troops from coastal forts, and even young boys and old men. They were literally robbing the cradle and the grave to cobble together anyone who could still fight.
All right, so let's get to the action. Day one of the battle is March 19th. Now, Johnston knew Sherman's huge army was split into two wings, marching separately. This was his one and only shot. He had to attack one of those wings before the full 60,000 could come crashing down on him.
And you know what? At first, the plan actually worked. A Union division under General Carlin moved forward, thinking they were just dealing with a few cavalrymen. But then, all of a sudden, the woods in front of them just erupted with thousands of Confederate soldiers, an ambush. This triggered what's known as the last grand charge of the Army of Tennessee, and this ferocious attack completely shattered the Union line, sending them running in total chaos.
And get this, for a story of pure chaos. The Union general, Carlin, had actually put on his best uniform that morning. But as his line collapsed, he fell right into a big, mucky ditch. And that mud that completely ruined his fancy uniform, it probably saved his life, hiding him from being shot or captured as he escaped.
So the Confederates are charging forward, right on the heels of the retreating Union troops. But their attack carries them into this new part of the battlefield, a tangled, swampy mess that had a pretty ominous nickname, the Bullpen. And the fighting here was about to get even crazier.
The soldiers who fought there called it nightmarish terrain. Just imagine trying to fight in an almost impenetrable swampy forest. It was so thick and wet you couldn't even dig proper trenches. The men literally had to pile up logs and scoop mud with their bare hands just to create some kind of cover.
For the Union soldiers trapped in the bullpen, it was an absolute nightmare. First, they get hit from the front. They fight that off. Then, just as they think they've caught a break, they hear that terrifying rebel yell coming from behind them. They were surrounded, fighting for their lives in every direction. But the Confederates were just exhausted, and a fierce Union counterattack finally stopped their charge. Johnston's surprise attack was running out of steam.
So after that brutal first day, Johnston's window of opportunity slammed shut. The rest of Sherman's 60,000 men started showing up. Now outnumbered 3-1, Johnston knew he couldn't attack anymore. He had to switch to defense and just try to hold on.
So how in the world do you defend against an army 3 times bigger than yours? Well, Johnston got creative. He set up his defensive line in this clever hook shape, kind of like a horseshoe. And the whole point of this weird shape was to protect one single crucial spot, the bridge over Mill Creek. It was his army's only way out. And this is where the story takes another wild turn. On the last day, a Union general named Mower asked for permission to do a little reconnaissance, just scout things out. Instead, he goes totally rogue and launches his entire division in a massive surprise attack. It completely caught the Confederates off guard, broke right through their line, and his troops got incredibly close to capturing Johnston's own headquarters.
And here's a fantastic little detail. When Mower's surprise attack came crashing in, General Johnston was reportedly just chilling in his slippers. His headquarters was nearly overrun, and he had to scramble to escape on foot. It was an unbelievably close call. But here's the thing, Sherman was furious that Maurer attacked without orders. He actually refused to send any help, basically telling Maurer, "You got yourself into this mess, you can get yourself out." It's fascinating because years later, Sherman said that was his only mistake at Bentonville. He realized if he had just backed Maurer's play, he could have trapped and destroyed Johnston's entire army right then and there.
That reckless charge by General Maurer was pretty much the last major action of the battle. For General Johnston, the writing was on the wall. His huge gamble had failed. Now, he was just trying to keep his army from being completely wiped out.
So let's just do a quick recap of the basics. We've got Sherman's Union Army against Johnston's Confederates. It all went down from March 19th to the 21st, 1865, near Bentonville, North Carolina. And while the Confederates fought with unbelievable grit, especially on that first day, the huge advantage in Union numbers meant the outcome was never really in doubt. It was a Union victory.
On that last night, Johnston made the only smart move he had left. He knew he couldn't stop Sherman, and staying there meant his army would be destroyed. So, under the cover of darkness, he slipped his men across that one precious bridge over Mill Creek and retreated to fight another day. The battle was over.
So why do we still talk about this battle? Well, the story of Bentonville is just incredible. It's about desperation, unbelievable courage against impossible odds, and the final bloody days of a long, terrible war. When we preserve battlefields like this one, it gives us a chance to walk that same ground, to really understand the sacrifices that were made, and to connect with one of the most important moments in our country's history.